Okay, so what we are doing, we are going to go through an assembly that is kind of a simple use case that one can work upon real time scenarios. So this is like a payroll, after payroll processing data kind of integration through Studio. Usually payroll get processed through a PG or a PCOF, as we call. These are also connectors inside Workday. But there are certain requirements because PG or a PCOF would generate their outputs in XML, but certain vendors like say SAP, they want a comma separated or they want fixed length file for processing the payroll information. The post-processing of information after that payroll integration happens in a studio. Okay. So let's go with start here. There's only one start here. If you deploy this collection, it will definitely gonna, I would say, build an integration on Workday 10, and then that integration name would be pay data. Okay. And then let's see what are the launch parameters. So in launch parameters, we have an input document. Then we have a repository document type. So what it is doing on hypothetical means it is trying to get the payroll processing. Since this is sample studio, it is just trying to get the payroll processing information. And this would, instead of getting the input document on the launch parameter on a real life scenario, it would be tagged after a payroll integration. If you remember, like we tagged DT after a core connector. Similarly, on the business process of the payroll integration, a studio would be tagged, and that studio will consume the output of the PG integration or the payroll integration. Similarly, like DT consumed the output of the core character information and transformed it. Similarly, Studio will do with the meaningful or logical processing information you have built the Studio on. Okay. In terms of services, they have not put or enabled any services. So we'll move ahead to the next part, that is setup and retrieve documents. So this whole component async mediation is called a setup and retrieve document. The first eval they're trying to get is retrieve launch parameters, props, input.reference lp.reference data, input document, and document ID. So this particular statement, what it is doing is getting lp.getReference data. If you remember, that is used when you want to get the value of the launch parameter, which is a for reference type, and we will get this document underscore ID for that document into our prop that is called as input document reference. Okay, and then what we're doing is prop document reference not equal to empty. Now this is called a validate expression. This is another one of the things available on, I would say, async mediation or async mediation under the components as well. So what validate expression does is it will validate the expression you put it. This would be a true and false condition. And if this not get true, it will error or send out a message that you enter in the failure message. So the launch parameter has not been specified. It says. So in this here component, it is seen because we enabled or we defined the import document dot reference props to have the document ID. Now on the next step, it is checking if there is a document ID entered or not. So say I ran the integration and I did not get the input document. So this property or this prop would be empty. And that's what we are checking here on the where it is checking if it is not equal to empty, then true. Otherwise, what would be the failure message that the parameter has not been specified. Okay, and it will error out. Now, going ahead, since if it is true, it will go ahead if it finds the document ID, and then we will initialize all these variables. And the first one is index of separator, that is input document reference dot index of the slash. So input document collection, input document reference dot substring 0 prop index of. So it's trying to get the values there. I would show you like this. It is saying A B C D and then this and say it has something like this. It is trying to get the index, the position of this dash. Okay. So that's why it is trying to get the index of this. And what it is trying here in the next one, it is getting the substring. It is getting the part of the document reference ID from starting till this position. So you wanted this kind of thing to be substringed out on that property. So how will you do it? You know the first position, but you want to know the position of this particular element. That's why you are getting the index of this and then trying to do something from zero for the starting position to the index of separator. Okay, and then we have props, input document entry, props, input document reference, substring props, index of separator plus one, separator plus one, and document entry, then document widths, lp.get widths, input document, it now this is getting the document width or the workday ID of the document that has been created from the repository document. Then we have import document width, we had the input document widths, and then we have width that is dot get the first width, input document file name, get this document prop. Let me see. 1 second. If we have the sample file attached somewhere or not, how will we run the repository document when it says I is not a library for this we can go interface. They will keep an external view. It's a document that conforms the payroll interface output file.xsd schema. It may be necessary to reformat these XML documents to load the data into the external payroll system. You can use the integration developed using Studio to reformat. Okay, so it's the same thing, but I'm trying to see is it really getting good document for text fine. You put documents, let me deploy it because if we do not have the input file, I won't be able to run this and you cannot see. Let me just try to run it for launch. Does it already have a repository document, input document? Right. You'll have to document it. Just click on it. It will not allow no field values required, must have a value. So I think we'll want to process, but let me group ID, group PI should have attached the sample file to run assembly diagram, transform pay.py, parameter getting one right data, header, path, slash, okay, payroll integration already. Since it is an error, I don't think we will have any output file. Rather, I'll show you the flow and be trying to get if it has a document or I need to supply a document. Rather, explain you the things only from assembly flow perspective. So usually what a payroll file would look like if we have, second, let me open Oxygen. In that meantime, we know that in this, what we are doing is like there is a separator slash that is available, might be available on the file name, and then they are trying to find the position of it, and then from there they are trying to get the substring values like a part of the text from the input document reference that we have got from the like that is the document ID, and then we are trying to get the width, and here we are trying to get the first width, the width on the first position, that is 0, and then input document file in lp.get descriptor input document props, and this will get you the file name of the input document, index of dot, okay, and index of dot will get you say if the name of the document would be something like say group 1, okay, so it will get this index of the dot. Okay, from here what they're trying to do now, they're trying to create an output file name that is the output of the studio integration. So what they're doing is props index of dot is equal to -1. So when the index of dot say it is equal to -1, that if it is not available, then to input dot document file name, otherwise do input document file name dot string from 0 to index of dot. Okay, So this particular statement, please stay focused on. So what they are doing is like creating all the above props just to get to this, because the main thing was to get the document name, input document file name. Okay. So they stored the input document file name in a particular thing, and then they got the index of the dot. So index of, or the position of this dot they have got. And this is the, say, input document doc file name. And now what they are trying to create is output document file name or file name. So what they are saying, if there is a index of dot available, then take that file name, like take this file name, pay group 1.1, and then say pay group 1.csv. That's what they are trying to do. Because there is, so this is how within the props you can write a if else case kind of scenario. So this particular condition will return a true or false, which is saying if index of dot is equal to -1, that it is not able to find the dot. Then what you do is like put prop input document dot file name, then value of the output document file name should be equal to the input document file name. This means this: if there is no dot available and the file name comes out like pay group 1, then input document and output document will be similar. But in case the document has an extension and that has the dot dot value inside the file name, so if there is a dot value, then do the rest of the part of the string. So it says colon and then do input document file name, then substring this string from first position till the index of the dot that you have received. It will again extract this part, pay group 1, and from there it will just concat plus dot csv. So that's how we come up to this processing that the output file name will become this. If .xml is not there, it will extract only this and put .csv after it. If .xml is present as an extension of the input document, it will extract substring of the file name from the first position till the position of the dot, and again it will concat at the end as okay. So any questions regarding this, please look at this in text once more and try to just remember it. This is a sample studio, so you can go ahead, download it into your respective RDP studios and copy these statements somewhere for just to remember or just to get yourself familiarized with. But what is it is doing is doing an if else kind of processing. Okay, I'll take that as a no. So what we are doing the next step is getting the collection name, that is props dot input document collection, and then props dot input document entry, that is on the retrieval document. Then we are copying the header of the file. So a payroll file will generally look like this. Like at least the header of the output file will have a payroll extract employees and then pay group data and the header information. And the header information will have, let's say, something kind. One second. Exit.
Can you go one step back? That collection and entry, can you explain it? I couldn't follow that part.
This document collection and document entry. One second. Let me see if they have layered it up.
Looks like this retrieve is a complete new component that we are looking. Right?
This is like we have stored. One second.
Okay.
So what they are doing is like having a retrieve or you common components, Workday components. You see, like similarly like we have store. Store is getting the document created on the integration event to store on the integration event. Like this is a store.
Right.
Okay. Again, this is a retrieve there using. Okay. Sorry, did I put it in here? I believe so. Yes. So you see, this is a store. So you are storing the document in here. And this is a retrieve, opposite of it. It is getting the information or getting the document which is stored on the integration event. So when we launch the integration, right, as I showed you, this will to create a document attachment and attach the document to the integration event. So that integration and that document, payroll document, will be available for processing. Okay. So this is just doing that. it is saving that particular
File.
yes. Import document onto the retrieval step. Like we have that document created within the assembly, it is stored onto the output step.
Okay. Are we writing this? I mean, in this assembly, are we writing this collection and entry value somewhere so that it will make
Yes.
more sense? Okay, then we can proceed. Now, yeah, the props is returned to some log. Do you know?
All right. So it is this props is not getting, it's just like getting the name of the document reference ID, like document ID.
Okay.
So if you see import document.reference, this is the first prop that we had created here. And what it is doing, it is getting the reference, like document of the document you will attach. So the collection would be the name of the document ID. What it is doing is just getting the substring from 0 to the position of the separator. So till a slash, and then input document entry. Input document entry is again, you have prop entry substring index of separator +1. So there is another parameter that would say they have configured as where the separator is, like the backslash is +1.
So this is inside the file, correct?
Yes, it is like file info. The file will have a name. The file, since it will be, as soon as you attach it to the tenant or the launch parameter, it will be stored onto Workday Cloud, right, for processing. So as soon as it gets stored, it will have these reference IDs. It will have its widgets being created all in similar places, like I would say repository document. No, I will not have access to. I think we had an payroll. Payroll is only, let me just open this one because this is again advanced concept. Let me see if this has a payroll file. Field. Okay. They were not able to run it completely. Let me check again. It's an event was triggered and had an output file.
Or we can execute the same integration, right? The pay data.
We can, yes, but the thing is, I want an input file for this to run.
Okay.
And that's what I'm trying to get. Yeah,
okay.
that's not provided. That's what I was trying to. And usually, what we do is like if we want to prepare any samples for running or testing, we attach it in this WSAR and document folder.
There is a transform pay data XLS.
That XLS is like the XSLT.
XSLT, okay.
Yes. XSLT will have an XSL. You have transform pay data. So as soon as you create the XSLT here, it will be always can be found under this WSRNF folder. But what I'm looking for is an XML that will help us Studio Assembly.
Right, I understand.
Oh, the document. And maybe I'll go back and maybe talk later. How can we get, or at least if there is any particular PI payroll integration that is available for us to get the data. Anyways, okay. So we got these document headers and everything, right? So these are the values which we created in the props, and now we are just like on the store, like we put the file name, we are putting the collection and the entry so that our retrieval component is able to identify which document we are referring to. Okay, just getting the document into the assembly. Now this particular store. Now this particular copy header, what it is doing is copying the header of the file. So as I told you, a payroll interface would have a header section on a file that will help all the information like the run date, effective date, pay group information, company information, and all that. So what they're doing is like just copying this header. So whatever will fall under this header, like show you. Okay, come on. So this would be something like this, payroll information. Okay, it would be something like, and this header would be then closing PI colon header. Okay, and then this pay group would be closing, and then also would be closing. So the basic outline structure of a payroll file from a Pico output would look like this. This header will then have certain information inside it. Okay, can have the tag and then other tag as heading date, then one as effective date, other as say worker count, all these things will be present. So there will be numerous tags or XML tags inside this header. So in this level, at this component, what we are trying to do is like it's a copy. So you can copy the output or like the message, not the output, I would particularly the message that is flowing at this stage. So the message at this stage would be the information that this document, retrieval document will have. So now what we are doing is input is the message that is flowing in the assembly. Okay. And inside this message, we are looking for particularly this XPath, input XPath. So inside the input, if there is a XPath we particularly want to look at, and then output. So the copy would happen as it will copy whatever information this header would have into a variable name as so we have declared a variable. Now it will copy the output into a variable that is named as the input. And after this component has went on processing, now again at this step, we won't have this variable unless until we call this. Okay. Now again at this step, it is just like copy. You are taking the copy of the message that is flowing into a separate variable, but in the background, what will happen is like the original message or the information on the retrieval document will keep on flowing into the assembly. So here what it is doing is like getting the company ID. And how they are getting the company ID? Now, since the original message is flowing, they cannot directly go to the XPath. So what they are doing is like calling the variable var. That is how you call the variable. You declare this variable in here, input.header. Now they are calling that variable input.header which will hold the header information, which will have the pay group ID, company ID, and all those information. And then what they are doing is like getting the header. From the header, they are getting the company ID as well as the pay group ID. Okay. So they are extracting these information from the header. And still, since the original message is flowing into the assembly, it will go to the splitter. And now you see the statement, what it is doing the same thing we did for, it is splitting, splitting them data per employee. Okay.
Sorry, Ryan. Can you hear me? In the last step, appearance, you see it's a variable, vars.
Right.
So what is the vars? We have seen only props, right, so far?
No, I explained you right here that the
variable
where is this declared input.header?
Correct.
So what we are doing is like copying this, the message, the everything, say whatever information that would be available inside these tags into a variable, and we are declaring this variable here, input.header.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So that's how we are copying this information, like whatever is inside the PI header tag. From the PI header tag, we are storing it into a variable known as input.header. And now we stored, or we initialize that variable in the previous step. Now we are calling that variable, and inside that variable, we are looking for an XPath, which is the company ID. So it will get you in this prop. It will what it will store is the company ID on the file, payroll company ID as well as the pay group ID, which is available on the file under the header section, will be stored on these props. Okay. And moving ahead now, since the original flow or the data inside this whole, now this not just header is flowing, header is, I would say, this is stored in a variable, but the whole message assembly will get all this data, like from PI extract employees, and all the details will be available. So that PI extract employees will have another tag as pay group, and inside that it will have every employee information. Like similarly, we have for report data and then report entry, and then report entry will have all the information of the worker. So similarly, this will have all the information of the workers inside these extra paths, and that's how you split each of these employees. And now after splitter, it will go to transformation, and that's what transformation does. Like for each of the employees, we are having an XSLT. If I open this XSLT, let's see what they are trying to do. In here, they have declared the XSD, they have declared the namespace for the PI. PI would be the tags following for each of the details on the file. So similarly like this. So first we have to declare what is PI information, like PI tag stands for, then indent date out. Then you see now we are getting the parameter as we did in one of these XSLTs earlier. If you want to call a parameter or a property for processing, you will have to initially declare it in the header section of the XSLT as a parameter with the same exact name. So now this will have or fetch the value from the props we have declared, that is company ID as well as pay.group.id, company.id, names have been declared. Now these parameters will have the values from the prop onto the XSLT. Now what we are doing is, like, since we are already into each employee, we are looking inside the employee tags. So inside the employee tag, here we are declaring a variable. So inside an XSLT, you declare a variable like XSL variable name. And now this is just the name. And inside the variable, we are doing a functional processing. So what we are doing is, like, we are using a choose statement when and otherwise in the choose, XSL choose. Similarly, like we have if else, we also have choose, like a leather type of conditional statement that we follow. So it will process in order when identifier pay ID is equal to pay data ID. Then what they're doing is, like, get the value of the identifier value. Otherwise, get the employee ID from the summary. So this employee ID will have certain values. If they're saying if the PI identifier where the PI identifier type is paid data ID, if the pay data ID is available, then store that on employee ID. If it is not available, then store the employee ID. Okay. So this is just a variable. Now this variable will either store the pay data ID, this value, or the employee ID. Moving ahead, now this is creating the file, payments. Okay. This is the first tag. So our file will look like this. So the output file after this XSLT, let me remove this for a second. XSLT encode, earning amount, earning code, otherwise to get it when there is no input file available. And okay, again, this is a variable. Okay, yeah. So the file would look like something like this. Okay. So the structure of the file would be payments. Then inside the payments, there would be another tag as payment. So payment means multiple payment tags, and for each of these, there would be a payment. There would be one particular tag as payment, and then company. Company will have a value. Pay group will have a value. Employee will have a value, and inside employee, there would be after employee, there would be earning code, earning amount, like the code of the, say, base pay. Earning code would be something, say, base pay or your HRA or anything, and then there would be amount of that. Then there would be a deduction, say you took a long-term sickness leave or that impacts your payroll, so that would be available, say long-term sickness or sickness, and the amount of that deduction. And then again, if there are other earning codes and earning amounts and deduction codes, that will follow. Okay, so that was just the structure we will get after the processing of this accessibility has been done. So we are clear till getting the value of the employee ID into our variable that is named as employee ID, employee, and the camel casing employee ID. And then we are again having for each of these payments, we are having PI pay data. So inside the input file, we will have something called as pay data. Inside that, but now again we are declaring a variable is earning and select access T boolean PI earning on deduction. There is a flag inside the payroll file which is called earning or deduction. And if this flag is E, that means that particular information is an earning. If it is a deduction, it is a D. It is simple as it sounds like. So on the payroll, there are components of your salary, so salary component or your compensation element, which are there on the file. So it can either be an earning or it can be a deduction. Like if it's an earning, it will add up to your monthly salary amount. If it has a deduction, it will get deducted from your monthly salary amount. Okay. So here, all they're doing is like storing the value. If it is earning, it is storing this value as is earning as true. Okay, so it is capturing if it is an earning or not. And then variable, then code, PI code, and PI amount. They are storing these into different variables again. Code, amount, is earning, and employee ID are the core variables we have declared so far. Okay, now we are doing the real processing. Inside payments tag, they are printing payment first, and inside payment we are getting the company. You see the company and the pay.group.id, they are using a dollar sign. Why they are using a dollar sign? Because this is the value of the parameter. So as soon as you have declared the parameters, which is extracting this information from the prop you have declared on the assembly, this particular field, XSL value of the company ID, dollar company ID, will print whatever is stored on it. Okay. So those values, the company ID as well as the pay group ID would be printed in here. They would be inside company tag as well as pay group tag. So in their relevant tags, we will print this information, then employees. Then this employee would have either the pay variable value, which can either be the pay data ID or the employee ID. So this employee tag will have the value of that variable. Okay. Now in this sample, the earning and directions are placed in different columns in the output file. The XSL choose decides the column to place the values in. Okay. Again, the XSL choose, we are trying to, if it is an earning, then earning code, okay, and then earning amount, and then deduction code and deduction amount will be blank. Otherwise, if it is a deduction, then they will print the earning and then earning amount as blank, but then print the values of deduction. What they are trying to do is they create a kind of pattern. So if the earning is available, they will have the deduction code, but they will be having blank values. So what it can do in turn, since we are trying to get a CSV or a file in a text kind of format, CSV format, they want to put the values in different columns. So that's what it is doing in this sample. The earning and deduction codes are placed in different columns in the output file, and the XSD choose decides which column to place the values in. That's why we were doing that. If there is an earning which is available, then write the deduction codes as blank. If there are fields that are available, first write the earning codes as blank and then print the values for those deduction amounts. Okay. So the bottom part of is just printing the values on the XML document, but the main processing is happening in here where we are declaring these variables, we are declaring getting the code, we are declaring the amount, we are checking if it is earning. So that's what it is saying. On the choose step, it will say if this is earning. If this is true, then do this. Otherwise, so otherwise is the default scenario. It will print the deductions. Okay. Any questions on this XSLT? What this variable is doing? Any kind of questions? Okay, then I will go back to the studio. So this is what our XSLT was doing. So we have transformed the file. Now this particular output after this component, our output will be looking something like this: payment, company. Then company will have certain values, pay group will have certain values, and these earning codes and deduction code values. So what we are trying to do is going to aggregator in here. Now you can see there is an aggregator with the size strategy of batch size, which is always -1. Post batch is by default true, but we will have a content collator, like have this header text. So after all the collation is done, it will have the pay data under header field, and then these are the header and the footer, and the main XPath for the payments and payment, which is on the files that we have created using the XSLT. So now again, what this aggregator is doing is like, since our splitter is processing each employee one by one on the XSLT, okay, so it will come here one employee one, it will transform that data for employee one, it will send to a aggregator. Now again, aggregator will keep on aggregating till the last message is true by default, okay, or this particular batch is completed. So it will go to employee 2. It will transform the data into payments and payment. it will again send it to aggregator. So till the last employee is available for splitting, it will keep processing, and as soon as this last employee transformation is there, the assembly will identify this is the last message in the message queue. It will stop processing, and what it will do is like put all the data that we have inserted inside the header text as pay data. Then we have header fields, and then we pay data, header and footer as the main pay data. Just ignore the header field for now. And the X path is the same one, payment/payment. Okay, so now after this aggregator, you will have all the combined information, this particular kind of XML for all the employees. So this will be repeating for all the employees one by one. Okay, now we have store output. What it is trying to do is you have the header field. It is writing this header field on variable again. If you see common, we are having the input and we are having the header variable. The output is the variable. So they're not writing on the assembly flow, but rather they're writing on a header variable. Okay, so this is the value they are writing. Header field, company, pay group, employee, earning code. So in the next step, what we will be doing is, right, we will be seeing these values which come up as the header of the CSV output file. Like the output will then, after this transformation from XML, will look like company, pay group, what are where the header fields are, like employee, earning code, employee, earning code, earning amount, and so on. So all these fields that you see, earning amount, earning code, deduction amount, deduction code, will be available on the CSV header. Okay. So we are just adding the header here on the right component. Similarly, like we wrote the web service, right, to call, but now this time we are not sending it to the message assembly. We are storing it onto a variable known as header. Okay. And the easy way to identify if it is writing on a message or assembly is to see if it is a message kind of from as an input. The above one is input. Kind of see the logo now, right? So this is the right component. On the right there is a message. So the input is a message, and then dot. There is a blue dot. Then the output is a variable. Similarly on this one, the input is a variable, but the output is a message. Okay. So that's what it is happening in the background, and you'll be easily able to identify without even going to the advanced tab that okay, this is writing onto some variable, but yes, the name of the variable that you'll be able to do only on the advanced. Go back to the original form. Okay, so they are writing this information, these tags on the header variable. Now coming to the next copy, this will combine the output. Okay. Now it is getting the variable from the header, like the information from the header variable as an input, and the output it is doing is like on the message, which is having this original output from the aggregator, and the aggregator will have a content collateral as like this. Pay data is the header and pay data is a footer, and inside header there is another field. That's why they left it as blank. So they will put all those values inside this header tag, and the payments and payment tags will hit for each of the processing you have done through transformation.accessibility. Okay. So now they're putting all this information in the background. What is happening? These header field, all this information, company, pay group ID, field 1, field 2, will sit inside the header tag. Okay. On the XML, it will be like pay data, then header of the pay data file, and then the payment, which is the output of the accessibility. Okay. So now this particular processing, the message will have all the data from the accessibility as well as the header field from the header variable. Now this particular transformation is a subassembly that is delivered to you XML to CSV. All you need to do is like just call this, and it will transform your XML, which is having a proper structured format, into a CSV. It will take, okay, the header information is this. It will print those rows on the header. Okay, it will print it like this, and from the next row, it will start printing the values. Okay, so that's what we are doing in here. XML to CSV, right header line false. because we are writing it from integration file. Okay, so it will just convert the entire flow into a CSV document. So all that we had on XML, it will directly convert it into a CSV. And then what we are doing in here is storing that file. Now, since we have the output in a CSV file or a CSV format, we are storing it on the document ID, like integration event. Okay, so it expires in P3M. That is, it expires, and the document retention policy is 3 months. Then the summary tag that okay, it will say pay date pay date extract, but the real thing is the title. The file name will come up with this prop output.file name. This is the output file name that we created. If you remember, using the if else case in the expression or the eval expression, that if the input file name has an extension .xml, it will the initial part. Otherwise, if it does not have a .xml file name, it will take the whole file name and put a .csv. So this file name will have anything, say like pay group 1 .csv, pay group 2 .csv. This value will depend upon the input document. Okay. On the advanced tab, if I'll go content disposition attachment file name, it is again doing, you can ignore this. And then there is a put integration message. What it will do is like put an info message. Okay, info. Then the variable is the output document reference. Is document deliverable? Now it is tagging that we have the document deliverable, and inside the messages it will print info, that is the severity, and the summary. Attach pay data extract the output file. It will come out under messages, and then under the output files you will be able to see this file, which will have the output file name, that is say xyz.csv, 1.csv, pair group 2.csv. Okay, and that's the flow of this integration. And then we have global error handler. As I told you, like all the errors will be like get cached inside a global error handler, and we always have a global error handler in our assembly. I know it's like too much for you, but still, if you have any question, be it any small or any component you want to revisit or review, we can go through it now, or and you can ask.
So I have a question here. So let's go back to the split employees.
Okay.
So here you are splitting based on some strategy, right? Okay, X part.
Right.
Then you
Right.
perform the XML. The next step is performing the
Transformation.
XSLT. So you
Right.
get the values of all those payroll data,
Right.
and you manipulate the data. So, and then it goes to the aggregator. So in aggregate, last time we remember to loop, we used a variable for the collate and batch.
Right. Yes.
Did not use it. So how do the loop happens then?
In this case, there is a thing called collate and batch. Okay. If we do not give any of these information, which is mostly in cases we do, then what we do is like, since we are aggregating only from one splitter or one kind of flow. So what we do is like, we let the default values or default properties of the aggregator to work and decide when to collate and when to stop. So it will do is like course batch on last message. Okay.
The true is
So
not
it will,
selected, but still.
it is, no. You see, if it is a bold, if a particular value is bold, it is by default true.
Selected.
If I'll show you, like for async mediations, if you go to advanced, you see, if it handle downstream errors, it is always false unless until you want to handle the downstream error. Okay, it will be always false. If you want to handle the downstream error, then you do true. Now it will be true. If it is not, then it will always be false. So by default, it will be false, and by default value will be in bold.
So the next question is, if the loop executes, and in the next step, yes, we are doing the header and footer, everything. But when the loop finish, where is the message stored? All those like say 100 employees payroll data has been captured in that.
It is now, yes. So now as soon as you'll exit, so this kind of collator will have this field. Okay, let me do this, Control Z. So now all these, the bottom part will repeat for all the employees. Okay, but the header will be like this: payroll pay data, and then now again this will pay data. Okay. So we are putting all these tags, the payment tag, payments for the employees. Okay. Inside the pay data and the header pay data tag. Okay. So now after this aggregator is complete, this particular message will flow in the assembly. This particular is a background message or XML information that is flowing in the assembly. So as soon as we get into this async mediation, which is store output, but what we are doing is like creating a message of our own. That's why we are using the right step. So we created the message for header, but it will not distort the main message that is following, because we are not writing it into a message, rather we are writing it into a variable. So again, like similarly, like we copied the header from the message to a variable, similarly we are writing this particular information into a variable. We are not changing anything on the main message, which is this as of now. All we are doing is like combine the output here. Now we are doing is like input. The message flow is already happening, but input the header onto the XPath where the output field is header field. So now this will write inside this. It will take like this. Sorry, it will take like this, and then it will. Okay, now that all the data on this particular thing, now it will be written in. So the data will now come look like this. So it will have the pay data, it will have the header, and then inside pay data, every payment will be represented as payment, and then employee ID, company ID, all the information of that particular employee. Okay, so your XML will look like this after this combine output. And here what you are doing is like letting them know that there
So,
would.
sorry, can you go back to the combined output?
Right.
Okay, sorry, one more step before that. So here, can you go to common, please? So here you are building the header and input is the message. That's the message which we created in the XSLT.
Right, but now
Right?
we are using a no, but now we are using a right component.
Correct.
So,
But that
so
input,
in
right,
that,
is not that input.
yes, that is fine, but you'll have to understand that this is a right component, and the message, the input for this component would be anything you write on this. Okay.
Okay.
So if I'll use message in here, then only it will take the message from the assembly. Okay. Otherwise, it will write or it will take anything we write on the text component.
Okay. So that's the first step. So basically, you're creating the header here.
Yes, you are creating the header here, and then we are just combining the header and the main output file.
Okay, let's go there. So how do you combine that? So, okay, input header is coming as variable. Understood.
Right, right.
The import XPath. I don't understand the slash.
This is like getting all the things inside. So as soon as you get here, it will just get all the things. What it will do is like inside the first tag, it will be. So when you read this as XPath, this would be like in XPath, this would be read as head. What is it? Header field. Okay. The next path it would be read as this, and then we have field, right? Okay. Then we have field, this will value, and then we have field, this will have value. So what it is doing is like after the first slash, get everything. So it will basically get all the values you are here. Okay. So like this is the output.
Right?
Yes,
Header.
it will capture all this information. The first tag and capture all the information on the field. Okay. And then using on the output now it is getting the main message on the assembly which is showing, and where it is writing, it is writing inside the
So basically the message, it flows in the assembly. It is not stored anywhere.
right,
By default flows in the message.
right, unless until you copy it into a variable, it will not be stored anywhere. It will go from one component to another. Okay.
So
Like
in the XSLT, you are saying output as message.
right, the XSLT input and output both are message.
Yeah.
If I want to save the transformation as in variable, like the message, the transformed output will not be thrown to the assembly, rather be stored on a variable. I can do that. I'll have to declare the variable in here. But after this, yes, this will be again continue having the input message. It will not get the transformed XML, like the output of the XSLT. it will continue having the initial message before the assembly, because you are not distorting the message in here. You are just like copying onto a variable.
Right, that is good. And it is writing there. Next, convert to CSV. Input is message, output is message. Right. Can you explain that XML to CSV one more time?
Yeah. So XML to CSV, this is a basic component that or a sub-assembly which is available to you to be used when you want to convert a well-formed XML, which is a well-formed XML, something like that, like this, which is a proper header and all those things. So what it will do is like, it will take in whatever you have written. I will say, okay, we have these payments repeating again and again. So this is one row. It will take the first entry as one row. Okay. Each of the entries will be taken as a row. So first entry, it will say, okay, we have header. So what it will do is like, 1 second, it will ignore the XML tags. It irrespective of, say it was written fields, instead of fields it was written ABC. It does not matter to it. All it cares about is the value inside this. So it will see, okay, on the XML, the first thing with the first tag we are getting is this header fields, and that will take as a row, okay, and it will print the value: company, pay group, employee code. So what we'll do is like, do I have no put plus plus replacement for now? Okay, now it what we'll do is like XML to CSV. It will say the first row we got is company, has this value company. Okay, since it's a CSV, it will put comma, and then it will put the next detail. It had pay group, and then it had employee, then it had earning code, then it had earning amount, and then deduction code, then amount. Okay, so it will write in the header for you all these fields, because this will be taken as the first entry or the first row on the XML to CSV processing. It will write whatever you have written. So another way to do it is like, instead of writing there, we can write in the header line what we write header is true, and then the format, you will put the header like this: company, pay group. So whatever you write will be written as the first line, and then you can start writing the entries of the data from the second one, like from the XML data. Okay, so it will keep
In
on
that case,
writing.
right output header is not needed. That's not needed.
Right. Yes, because we are writing it from the our XML file. We are not writing it directly on this component. We are writing it from the XML. It's written. Okay. So from the next, I think that's the thing. This is an RDP. So I think whatever payment tags were right. So payment had that payment tag, and then the company information. Say the company was ABC. It will write then pay group 1. The employees then it will say earning code as 81, or maybe say earning code as E1. Okay, and then amount is $1,000, and then deduction is 0. So it will come to the next one. Now it will say ABC. Okay, and then since this is a CSV, it will do like this, comma, deduction code is blank, and then it will come to the next one again, PG1. Okay, and again, then say it had a deduction. So first the earning code will be blank, earning amount will be blank, then deduction, and then say $50 deduction. Okay, then it will say company would be XYZ, pay group can be PG2, say this as maybe say your name, and then again your earning can be anything. E1 again, we are using the same code, maybe this is wage pay, this is again $1,000, and so on. So it will print all the information like this. You do not have to do this particular element. Just does the kind of processing from XML to CSV directly if you have that in well formed, like all the tags are correctly. So it will print each of the, I would say, the sub tags, like inside where the values are, one by one with a comma separated value, and as soon as it goes outside, it will go to the next row. So that's how a XML to CSV works.
Okay. And finally, attach output document that is just a local out.
This one, no, this is just a put integration message. You
Okay,
remember
so
we use put integration
yes,
message.
yes.
Yes.
In that endpoint, what is that? Is that the integration message? Okay, just passing the message.
Yes. So there would be no endpoint for integration messages. I think get integration system and then put integration message. This is the thing they are using.
Okay, it's not a regular local out.
Yes. So it is just an out, but internally into the integration, you do not have to connect it. What it will do is like put the message inside the message tags. Similarly to what we have documents and messages, right, on the integration event, will have this particular file available to you. And
And
the message,
one last question in the attach
right?
output, the last one in the parameters. These in the parameter,
Yeah,
these are attributes, right? Deep,
right.
the regular values. It is specifically for the file attributes.
Right. It was so you said like write a message. Then what is the message to be written? So you will declare in here that okay, I just want an info. I don't want to put anything. I just want to declare on the payroll integration that and that there is a file that has been attached to the integration event. So this would be
So what I'm asking is the name. First question is the name. Is document variable name? Is that a delivered value or is
yes,
could be anything?
it is. It is. It is. You see, you this one. If you select this,
That
all you have to do is like if the weight is message are available to you, you have to write info and that's the summary. Like you will write anything, summary I want. This will be printed. For our case, they are saying that info is to be printed and the info says attach pay date extract, see output file. It's just asking you to see the output files and that output file will have this output file that is created.
Thank you.
Clear with it?
Actually, you know what? I have one more question, but it is regarding the framework. So here we are in the initial steps, right? That complete the big box on the top to get that file name. Can that be put as an because this is what we are going to do for each of the files, right? This is kind of a boomerang interface, correct? So we are reading a file and we are creating a file. So
Right.
as a common function, reusable component.
If you want to, maybe if there is really a use case, if you want to, then you will have to maybe set it this like globally set up and you do all this processing in one go and then call this inside another
That's possible.
studio. Yes, that is possible, but usually what these parameters do is like, I think what they're trying to do is like they're attaching the file, but rather we have another, I think, component available to us like this. Let me put it in here. Get event documents. It will do exactly the same thing. All you have to do is like this. Okay. Get it installed. It will get the document reference on the integration event. It will capture the deliverable documents. Okay. And all you need to do is like this internally save the value on w.d.retrieve variable. That is the like default variable it stores the output file into. So all you need to do is like w.retrieve variable.file name. It will get the file name. It will say w.retrieve variable dot greater than equal to 0. It will check if the file is empty or not. Should we process it or not? All that will happen. They are doing in a different manner. They're getting because they wanted to show you properties how to declare. Otherwise, you'll not get to know all these things like if else case scenarios. In this particular thing, output file name, we can directly do it in a w.retrieval file name, get file name.
Okay.
If we use get event documents. But this is in real life scenarios. In real life scenario, you will not be attaching it. You won't be going ahead and running the integration and attaching the file again and again, right? It will be automatic process that this integration event will get the input document it needs for processing, be it through SFTP or through a business. And all you need to do is like get event documents. Use get event documents, and it will get all the variables, all the file data inside this.
And so you put it inside a business process. So by default, Studio will understand whatever file is processed before the
Right.
step.
So every file, like we had CCWs, right? We had multiple files, .html, audit file, or another file. But our DT understood that only we need to process the output .xml from the CCW. Why? Because it had a deliverable tag. So these components only look for, or these inbuilt things only look for deliverable files. So as soon as we are having a deliverable file, it will pick up and deliver. And that's why if you see here also, if you go to advanced, no, selection, create document references, use attachment document. Okay, no, on the message, if you see here, we have is document deliverable as. So now when we are creating the document, we are tagging it that this is a deliverable document. So in case we want to send it to our vendor or the payroll SFTP, that SFTP will identify that this particular document is a deliverable document, and I have to pick.
That's one of the column, right?
Right.
Say deliverable document.
Yes. Just like one of the parameters inside this, and you just have to put the value either true or false.
Okay. Looks simple but complicated.
Yeah. Like this is, I would say, honestly, Studio is something that grows onto you as more hands-on you do. You will be finding it at the first instance. You will be saying, "Oh, how I remember all this, that." But once you have a particular set of 2-3 assemblies to go through, you will always get to okay. Because even till now, I would say, if I'm building an assembly from scratch, I might not remember each and every property because there are so many. It's not a definite or set pattern that okay, that put integration message will have this parameter, no, but the store will have this. So it's impossible to remember so many properties. But it comes to you with hands on, okay, these are the properties, or maybe there are certain assemblies that you store for yourself. So for example, this particular assembly. Now again, if in real life scenario you want to create any of these components, you will know that I need to do this component, but what to put in here, so you can refer this assembly and see, okay, they are trying to put an integration message, then is there available is a variable that we have to put, right, to mark it as a deliverable. So I'll put that variable and put the values true. So all that needs to come to you with hands-on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, guys, I think that's what I will definitely try if there is any file available for us to.
Yeah, if you can do that, it will make more sense.
Yes, I know. So I'll try to do maybe, or at least try to create certain file or get from outside if it is possible, that I can at least run this assembly and show it to you how it is doing in the background, like what it is doing in the background, explain to you, but what the output is, how it processes all those things. I want to show you, so I'll try to get the input file from somewhere. I'll try to can go to the welcome page if they have somewhere attached the input file for us to run. So yeah. Apart from that, any other questions?
How many records it can be processed? Means what will be the file size? Whether there is any limitation in that?
I don't. I think there is a limitation on Studio to that Studio integration should complete in couple of hours. That is one. So that's why we build our Studio integrations efficiently. That it do not, like say if this is a very huge file size, it should ideally be completing the whole process from calling the integration launch till the output document or till completion. It should be completed in 2 hours. Otherwise, Workday in the background, it suppresses the job and fails the job. That's the limitation. In terms of size, I do not, I'm not sure. I think if I remember exactly, if there is any restriction on the input file size, maybe 1 GB or something, or not sure. I cannot answer you, but I'll try to get it if there is some restriction. But yes, 2 hours restriction is there, that the whole processing should be completed within 2 hours.
And if the file size is more, means of whether there is any other alternate method to do it.
Size is huge, yes. Ideally in payroll data, that's why we create different payroll integrations for different countries or pay groups. So for each payroll processing or payroll company, we will have, say, 1, 2, 3 pay groups, and all those pay groups will be processed in, I would say, together. So that's why we try to kind of, when really we are designing the whole flow, the architecture of the payroll integration flow, we try to decide that, okay, we will have certain values to be executed. So even for PC integration, I think the limitation is 250,000 is the employee size. So if the all the pay groups you are processing this integration, because the basis of this integration would be a payroll integration, it cannot process more than 250,000 employees at once. So that's how you strategically divide. Say if there are more than that employees in your, but this is also a huge number. So there are rarely any chances that you will find any problem with processing the amount of data. But yes, if say you have 3 lakh employees, then you will decide strategically that okay, once maybe during our year-end promotions or year-end annual reviews, all the employees would be need to be processed at once. So in those cases, what you do is like split your integration. So I will say like if there are 4 pay groups, I will process 2 in one integration and the other 2 in other integration. So that's what you can do. You can kind of clone it and run it separately in different integration events so that each integration event will complete in particular time.